Welcome to the Chaos and Light podcast. I am your host, Angela Levesque, and on today's episode, we have the lovely Molly Mandelberg talking about heart-centered business. I really enjoyed this conversation. There's a lot of practical tips, tools, and advice getting into different software that you can use to automate your processes, as well as some of the more spiritual and energetic aspects of manifestation and the creative cycle. So we'll get to that in just a minute. Again, the Chaos and Light podcast is part of the Chaos and Light community, where we have some upcoming events on February 21st and 28th. We have the Living Light Meditation Gathering, which, if you haven't checked it out, it's free and open to everyone, members and non-members alike. And basically, you can show up and receive. And I put together a guided meditation. Sometimes we work through things like inner child stuff. Sometimes it's more healing based. I just really open myself up and create a new one every week. So we have that coming up for at least 2 more Sundays in February. And then we also have Release Stuck Energy with my co-founder, Lisa Martin-Namey, on February 24th. And I think that name is pretty self-explanatory. I really enjoy Lisa's gatherings. They are very steeped in the divine feminine, and she takes a whole different approach than I do to our work together, which is why I think we work so well. So go to chaosandlight.com/events to find out more there. And if you haven't checked out the community, again, we post all sorts of fun stuff there every week. And yeah, we're growing and getting better. All right. Well, when we get back, we will enjoy a heart-centered business conversation with Molly Mandelberg. Do you believe in synchronicity and synergy? That when people share, connect, and collaborate from an authentic space, amazing things can and do happen? Then check out the Chaos and Light community, an online space for spiritual seekers that supports personal growth and gives you a frequent touch point to stay connected to your spiritual core. Join a group, attend a gathering, be inspired by our Muse feed, all in a politics-free, ad-free environment. So dive deep into your spirituality at chaosandlight.com. Connect, inspire, expand. Well, I'm here today with Molly Mandelberg. She is the founder of Wild Hearts Rise Up and creator of Your Money Machine, the Wild Woman's approach to the heart-centered sales funnel. As a tech-savvy strategist, Molly supports coaches, healers, and emerging thought leaders to expand their outreach so they can connect with more people and make more money with less time spent. With the heart of a writer and the brain of an engineer, Molly is uniquely qualified to support her people to not only connect the dots and tackle the tech, but also to craft their deep work into inspiring content and hot copy. She is known for taking the overwhelm out of big, exciting projects so that they can be birthed into the world and received by those who need them. Hi, Molly. Welcome to the Chaos and Light podcast.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you. I wish you were somebody I would have found like years ago, because I have been a heart-centered entrepreneur for quite some time, and it has been such a learning process. Because when you get started in this work, right, you think, oh, I have the heart for it, I have the passion for it, and then you realize sometimes you just don't have the skills for it.
True.
So, tell me a little bit about how you kind of came to do this work and what makes you really passionate about it.
Yeah, it was very organic and accidental the way that I came to this work. I wasn't somebody who went out and wrote a business plan and, did it the normal way and thought about it strategically. I sort of accidentally started my first business. So I got trained as a hypnotherapist and didn't have space to practice that. And so I ended up leasing an office. And in the process of leasing an office, I thought, oh, shoot, I should have like liability insurance. And like, if I'm going to do that, I should have a business name. And within the span of 11 days, I sort of accidentally started a business. I had a business cards and a lease and business name and DBA and a new business checking account, and all this stuff just sort of popped into being. And then I did hypnotherapy for about a year and realized that I am a fast talker, and I got kind of tired of the induction process. And I started noticing that a lot of the results my clients were getting were actually happening in the conversation before and after the hypnotherapy session, almost as much as the transformation they were getting from the hypnosis itself. So I decided I'd be a coach. And so I was trying to figure out exactly what my niche would be. And I'm someone who, once I put my stake in the ground in a new direction, I just go full force in that direction. So with each new niche that I would try, I was developing tons of content. I was building out tons of email sequences and making courses and programs, and nothing was quite landing, but I was geeking out on the marketing, and I was geeking out on the technology and the systemization and the craft of copywriting. And after a while of it not quite working, but getting really good at those pieces, I had an opportunity to speak to 15 people. I had won some speaker challenge at an event, and I had the chance to give a 12-minute talk. And I had this sort of breakdown with a friend of mine the night before my talk, saying, I'm working so hard. I'm doing so much. I'm trying to figure out who I am in this business and what I'm supposed to be sharing with the world. And I just can't seem to see myself clearly enough. Like, what am I good at? Would you just tell me what the world needs from me? And she is luckily a very insightful coach. And she was like, all this stuff, all this creation, all this technology, all this systemization, you're great at it. And we are not. And I think that's one of the things that the world needs from you. And I almost said out loud, like, no one will pay me for that. That's the fun stuff. And if you ever find yourself saying that, that's a really good sign that you should move in that direction. Because she had to tell me, no, it's not fun for us. And I was immersed and still am in community with hundreds of coaches and holistic practitioners. And I suddenly realized that those 15 people I was going to talk to the next day, if I tweaked my speech and made an offer for that as my service instead of purpose coaching or whatever I was trying to do at the time, that suddenly those people would be my ideal target audience. And so I changed my 12-minute talk that night, and the next day invited people to basically get technology and like strategy support from me after I had geeked out on all this marketing and stuff. And that, over the course of the last 5 years or so, has just took off. And I've gotten better at what I do. And I've finally, refined my messaging and my craft enough that my programs and courses sell. I live in a Sprinter van traveling the world in a little tiny home that I built, which is my dream. So I'm living my dream and also running a 6-figure business while traveling full time. So the stuff that we put on our plate as what we have to do for our business, not all of that is necessarily required. But what I do know is that when we get out of our own way and we get support, whether it was me having that conversation with my friend or whether it's my clients hiring me for the pieces that don't really make sense to them, when we are willing to reach out and get that support, we're capable of so much more together than we are on our own. So that's the sort of roundabout way that I came to doing what I do. If you'd told me 10 years ago I would be teaching marketing and copywriting, I would have laughed in your face. But it turns out that I have a deep, deep passion for bridging the world of healing and magic and consciousness with the world of technology and marketing and broadcasting a message powerfully.
Yes, I would say you broadcasted that very powerfully. That was excellent. Because I know it's funny you said, the fun stuff. And there's certain things that I know myself, and we had talked a little bit about this beforehand. Like, I do enjoy building websites. That for me is fun. There's something about the challenge of that like there's a design piece and there's really lots of like problem solving that has to come along and finding ways, okay, this is what I want it to do. How many different ways can I think about how to execute this? And then which is the best way? And so there's things that I totally get a nerd out on, a geek out on as well. But then there's some things that just like my eyes just glaze over and I think, oh man. But I love your point about asking for help, because this is like maybe my number one problem in the beginning is that I thought I had to do it all myself. So I'm learning every little piece of software, every little piece of tech that plugs into running a business. And that you have so much passion, but eventually you kind of run out of steam because that kind of stuff, it takes up a lot of space. And when you want to be writing or you want to be doing a podcast, or there's all these things that you really feel connected and passionate about. And then you have to go and, watch YouTube videos on like, whatever for dummies, like marketing. Yeah. So what do you say? Like, are there common things that you see that you would just say to your clients, like you should just get a VA, a virtual assistant, and get them to take care of that? Or is it always unique to the individual?
So I think it's unique to the individual. And it like you said, you have some fun making websites, but then when it goes beyond that into different technology, it's not as fun for you. I think it's valuable for everyone who's running a business to know at least the basics of how their systems function and what goes where. That being said, in the process of learning it, like I do this with my clients, we record every session so that basically by the time we're done working together, you have a system of operations folder for how we set up every system in your business. Now, that system of operations folder can be a file that's shared on Google Drive or Dropbox with your virtual assistant, and that serves as the how-to steps to set up my newsletter, how-to steps to launch my podcast or share my next episode, or whatever the task in your business is. So yes, I think everybody needs a scheduler. I think everybody needs an email list. There are some things that I think just start to create more ease in a business, especially for coaches and holistic practitioners or thought leaders, people who are sharing wisdom and guidance. There are some systems that I think everybody should have in place to create more ease as you start to scale and grow and get more clients. And you don't have to be the one managing that forever. So I know a lot of people have a lot of resistance to technology. Get help setting it up, and then get somebody else to help you manage it and continue running it. And virtual assistants are the perfect option to hand off the tasks that you just don't want to do anymore. So if you want to keep doing your web development, but you want somebody else to manage the funnels and the emailing, then make sure that there's a written like task list of how that goes, or even a video of how you do it. And the beauty of having that system of operations folder is that not all virtual assistants last forever, and not all virtual assistants relationships are going to be good the first time. So I've gone through 5 or 6, and not because all of them were bad. Some of them had babies and wanted to do their own thing or change career paths, or their workload was too heavy and I needed somebody with more time, or whatever the case may be. But that system of operations folder was part of their job. So every time they did a new task for me, they added that to the bank. And to onboard a new virtual assistant now in my business is easy because I don't actually have to train them to do anything. I just point them to the right file that shows them how to do the job I'm asking them to do. And that is setting your future self up for success.
And so where is the balance between, can I afford this, to delegate some of these tasks? And, this is just a huge time energy suck for me.
Yeah. So that's a great question. Some people are at such a beginning stage of their business that the idea of paying someone else to do anything seems impossible. And that is totally okay. In that phase, it's super important to be time blocking, and it's super important to be keeping track of all the teeny tiny things that you do on a regular basis for your business to keep running. So as you start building that list, you're going to start noticing, okay, these are the things I don't want to do anymore when I'm ready. And you start building that sort of addendum or agenda for that virtual assistant when it's time to bring them in. And you can start doing that at any point at the beginning of your business. Just start making the list of all the things you do, that some you'd want to do and some you don't want to do anymore. At some point, it depends on how busy you are, how much free time you actually have. And it also depends on how much you make, how much you charge an hour. If you were willing to increase your rates by $10 per session so that you could bring on a super part-time 4 hours, 5 hours a week virtual assistant to help you manage your business, then do that. Give yourself a little raise to make that possible. Whatever you have to do to make it less stressful to be paying that person. It's also really okay to start with someone for just a couple hours a week and start getting the feel of what delegating is. Delegating is a challenge in and of itself. It takes a breakthrough to start saying, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm letting someone else do this. And some of us have to sort of train ourselves to become the boss of our business instead of the employee of our business. But at some point, you have to recognize that if you're making $100 or even $60 an hour, and you can hire someone for $10 to $15 to $20 an hour to do a lot of the manual labor, you could fill those hours of your time that are no longer spent on the nitty gritty of your business, serving more clients. So there has to be a tipping point in there where you realize your time is better spent on the follow through and the delivery of your services than on the tasks of your business. And a good example of this is my mom actually has a wildly successful career as a writer, and she used to write many scripts. She's a screenwriter, many scripts for many movies every single year. And she recognized that she could write more if she had a housekeeper. So she hired someone. When I was younger, it was like 5 days a week. As she got older and her career leveled out a little bit, it was 2 days a week, but she didn't want to do the housework. All those hours a normal person would spend each week cleaning the house, she knew she could make a lot more money if she just kept writing. So she hired somebody else to do that for a livable wage, but that allowed her to be in her business and to be the creator and to be the magician. The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks is a really great book on this topic that makes you look at what is your expertise, what is your genius, and what is your zone of incompetence and your zone of competence. And he challenges you to look at your zone of genius as the stuff that you're not only great at, but you also love to do. It actually lights you up, to spend as much of your time as possible in your zone of genius, and to let other people spend more time in their zone of genius by allowing them to do the other tasks for you.
Yeah. Are there any like programs and by that, I mean, like whether it's a scheduler or, workflow management, are there any ones that you really like that are your go-to that you advise your clients over and over?
Yes, for sure. I have a page on my website dedicated to this because there are certain softwares that I just recommend all the time. And I'll say that this page is all affiliate links because I felt foolish for recommending things and not becoming an affiliate for those programs. But at wildheartsriseup.com/resources, it has all my favorite technologies. And I love that you brought that up too, because hiring an assistant is awesome. And we are living in the Jetsons age right now. We may not have flying cars, but we have really simple technology that can do a lot of the hustle and grind of our business for us. So email automation, having an email scheduler that you can set up sequences or that you can set up campaigns in advance. That is one way to keep in touch with your list and to keep marketing your programs and courses, even when you're not feeling like it. So I sit down and write 4 to 6 emails in a day or an hour, and those go out over the course of 2 or 3 months. And I don't have to think about what I'm sending to my email list for months at a time. I just took 2 weeks off in the desert for my birthday to go camping with some friends, and there were still emails going out all the time. My program was still mid-launch that started today, and that was working in the background as I went and lived my life. So an email automation system, I use ActiveCampaign. An online scheduler, I use Acuity scheduling. I like it better than Calendly. It does cost money, but I think it has a lot more functionality than Calendly does, but those are pretty relatable. Acuity scheduling, imagine never again having to send 6 emails to schedule an appointment with someone.
Yes.
That's all I'll say about having a scheduler. Take all of those emails and all of those private messages out of your life, create a booking link, and you say, yes, I would love to talk to you. Here's the link to find a time that works. And then boom, they're on your calendar. The appointment is scheduled. You have information. They know how to join you for the call. There's no more back and forth. There's no Google invitations anyone has to confirm or deny. It's just there. They figure out the time that works for them, that you're already available. Those are the 2 top most important ones, I think. I also like using a social media scheduler. I use Hootsuite. Later.com is another great option. For that, mostly I post manually on Instagram, and that populates my business Facebook page. But for Hootsuite, I use for like podcast marketing, sharing my episodes that are upcoming on the week that they release, and also in my Facebook groups, keeping posts going up in there so that there's some engagement happening. That's what I use Hootsuite for, is more background marketing for my groups and for my podcasts and stuff like that. Those three are really great tools, and you don't need to be a genius to set those things up. Those are things, if you gave yourself a couple hours a month, like the first of the month, I spend time on this project, you could get a lot going in the background and spend more of your time on other income generating activities besides running your business.
Yes, I have to say I use Acuity too, and I love it. It's just, it's amazing. When I first started doing internet radio before podcasts, like a long time ago. And yes, I remember like just the scheduling of it just took so much time. Just what about this time? And then the different time zones. And now it's just, like it all gets taken care of.
Yeah. Especially when you're in not a funky, but like another time zone that's not where a lot of your people are hanging out. It's so valuable.
Yes. So I wonder, because of your background, and I got a chance to check out your Oracle cards online. They look beautiful. So you have this whole, passion and love for spirituality and consciousness and magic and all of that. Is there ways that you sneak that into are you all business, or are you like, no, let's see what's going on?
Yeah. I tried to be all business for a while, and it was sucking my soul. Even though I have such a passion for marketing and such a passion for technology, you have to express all of you to feel fulfilled, it turns out. So yeah, I started weaving the magic and the consciousness and the intuitive like messages that were coming to me into my courses and programs. And that absolutely made a difference. So I'll talk about that from two sides. Number one, me sharing my magic turned my magic up and turned my client, it refined who my clients were in a way, because the people who wanted to also have that aspect of conversation around their business wanted to come and hang out with me and talk about it. And so it made everything juicier. The other side of it is I had to start recognizing that running a business and being successful at it is not just the doing, because I've had I just released a podcast this morning that I just solo casted yesterday about this exact same topic. It's come up 3 times in the last 2 days, that the being is so as important as the doing. I've had times in my business, many, many times in my business, where the doing did not change. I was hustling, I was grinding, I was creating content, I was posting, I was showing up, I was marketing, doing all the things. And that was a level, steady thing. And something in my being changed. And suddenly I was able to receive more money, or suddenly I was able to receive more consultations or clients, or whatever the metric you want to use is. And that I had to start acknowledging that the magic is just as important, that my ability to uncover the limiting beliefs and to unpack the inner blockages and to step into the reality that I kept asking for but wasn't ready to receive, that is just as important, if not more important, to the success of our businesses and to the growth of our beings as entrepreneurs. People think they become entrepreneurs so they can be their own boss. It's a wild ride of transformation. You have to look at your stuff all the time, and it can be confronting, and it can also be delightful and orgasmic and ecstatic and enthusiastic. So yeah, the being of the business and the magic side of it, recognizing the consciousness, our consciousness greatly impacts our ability to show up and do the job, and also magnetize our people to us. And it's been really fun finally synthesizing those two things and finding people show up for both, not just for the business.
Yes, I know my partner and I, Lisa, with the Chaos and Light community, we have our business meeting every week, and we talk about the marketing and all of that. But sometimes we're just like, okay, I'm going to go sit with this in meditation, or I'm going to go and journey on this, and then we bring it back and we talk about, oh, I had a visitation, an animal guide show up yesterday in my dream, and we weave that guidance into our work. And I don't think that we could do our work authentically without having that be a big piece as well.
Yeah.
So
not when you're broadcasting a tuned in, like when you're showing up as a coach or a healer or a holistic practitioner or a thought leader with consciousness on the table, you kind of got to do your work or else you're not walking your talk. And that lack of integrity starts to feel kinky and weird all the places that you show up. So yeah, it's a fun way to hold ourselves accountable that we kind of have to.
So conversely, do you find that people who are in holistic healing or doing this work, that sometimes they rely too much on the magics without putting the care and attention into the business aspect?
Yeah. And I think a lot of my clients show up in that space of like, we start to recognize that believing our minds can change everything is true, and action must follow. That there is an action part of actualization, that in order for all the magic and all the bliss and all the like inner work to actualize in this reality, we have to take some action. And when we don't know what those actions are, or when the only actions we're taking are, super heart-centered without any call to action, without any invitation or a next step for people to take with you, it doesn't have the same traction or momentum. So the law of attraction, I think people think, is just wishing or speaking it and living it, but not actually acting on things. And the truth is, the law of attraction is super powered by inspired action, by recognizing, oh, this feels light. This is the next step for me to take. And then going and taking that step and seeing what the next thing is, or what the next energy or awareness you have is. So yeah, I think a lot of people lean into, if I'm just holy enough, if I'm just conscious enough, everything will come to pass. And the truth is, yes, but you came into this physical reality because you're a creator of magnitude, and it's time to start taking action. Sometimes that's creating content. Sometimes that's just showing up and sharing who you are. But the business can't grow if you sit alone at home in your room and don't do anything.
I've experienced that. I think that, and I'll speak for myself, but I think I can speak to some of my audience as well, that we have our own hangups, our own stories around money or around sales. And we somehow feel like those types of things aren't authentic, or they're not in alignment with some of these other values that we ascribe to. So how would you talk to those people that kind of have that money story, that, maybe we should give our stuff away for free, or that we, undervalue what we bring to the table?
Yeah, those are valid points. And I've had many of those point of views, and those are there to keep you safe. If you believe that sales are out of alignment with you, then you don't have to go and try and sell yourself. So there is a lot of safety in those limiting beliefs. And the truth is, money is not good or bad or right or wrong. Asking for money is not good or bad or right or wrong. It's an energy exchange. And when we start to treat money like an energy and like an entity in and of itself, we can have a friendship and a relationship with money that is different. The truth is, if you're afraid of selling your services, you are robbing the world of your magic. And you did not come incarnate in this body on this earth to throttle your magic, to keep it to yourself. I'm assuming, if you're listening to this, that is true about you. And I would say that blanket statement across the board. Everyone is here for a reason. And many of us who become entrepreneurs are here to share that reason, to share that mission and that movement. If you are doing your business part-time, or you're not charging for your services, it is absolutely true that you have to make money some other way. And that means you're spending less time in your zone of genius, less time doing the great work that you're on this earth to do. If you start allowing your great magic trick to support you financially, then you will be doing it more often, just naturally, because you'll have more time to do it, because it's the thing supporting you. And not only that, but that people get more out of it. I started noticing this with my hypnotherapy early on in my business. When I would raise my rates just a little bit, my clients had greater transformation, not because it was a combination. I'm sure I was showing up bigger because I knew they were paying more to be there. I think that people subconsciously say, if I'm paying this much money for this hour, I am definitely getting something out of it. That's a subconscious story that's happening in there. But there's also the energetic exchange of an investment that allows more shift to occur. It's an energy balancing trick that more sometimes leads to greater. And just to circle back, everything you think about money and everything you think about sales and everything you think about marketing or business, I would question it. Just continue questioning it. Is this true? Does this belief serve me? Would I like to believe something else instead? And don't allow yourself to fall into a conclusion that's limiting you, because you're the only one who can stop that. And while you may have some assumptions about people who run businesses and who market themselves and who sell a lot, there is a heart-centered way to do business. And you are the only one who can find that version of that works for you. But giving people the opportunity to dive deeper and actually pay you for more to join that bigger program or to buy that bigger package, it is a gift to them. And your ideal client, the person who's meant to work with you, will see it as a gift to get the opportunity to dive deeper and to be called forth by their financial investment and to call you forth to work with them in that deeper way. So blow up your belief systems about money, because it's way more fun to have it and to do magical, creative things with it.
Did you have any mentors or any leaders in this field that you look to, or when you were beginning this?
Yeah, tons. I went to Thrive Academy, which is Jesse Corn and Charlotte Jacobs, and that's based in the Bay Area. They have a client attraction summit, which on my resources page that I mentioned before, there's a link to that if you want to check it out. I learned a lot about sales from them, about how to do a free consult really well, how to sort of see myself as a leader. And I actually did a lot of inner work in that community of unpacking who I thought I was and who I wanted to be as a business owner, as a leader, as a facilitator. That was hugely transformational for me. And then Brendan Burchard, I learned a lot of business stuff from him. Amy Porterfield was a great resource. Danielle Laporte, Byron Katie, Jerry and Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, that whole teaching. And then more so in the last 4 years or so, Access Consciousness, which was started by Gary Douglas and Dane Here. Access Consciousness is like, I don't want to say it's my Bible because it doesn't have any religious dogma attached to it, but it is my toolkit for all things energetic and awareness and consciousness. The tools of Access Consciousness are dramatically life-changing, and a lot of my own breakthroughs around receiving and having money and being me and allowing who I am to impact the world around me and giving myself permission and acknowledging myself for that. That all happened through what I've learned through Access Consciousness. So yes, I have tons of mentors and tons of coaches and holistic practitioner friends who I lean to for support and guidance. Cassie Summers is an amazing Access Consciousness certified facilitator who I meet with regularly. And I think that's just the laundry list of the people who have impacted my life. I think the main thing to gather from that ramble I just said is that it's important to have mentors. It's important to have people who have done what you want to do or who hold the energy that you'd like to carry, and to spend time with them until you sort of figure that out.
Yeah. I think every coach I've ever met has a coach as well. Like there's always, or people who have done really well in business, they have somebody that they've been mentoring with. And I think that that's a really important piece. Again, it asks us to ask for help and to see the value in collaboration, and to it's another way of putting ourselves out there.
Totally.
And I want to pivot a little bit. You have a really interesting article or a blog post on your website called Honoring the Creative Cycle, basically. And you say there's 3 stages in this creative cycle. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, totally. I have to credit my mom, who we talked about earlier, Cynthia Whitcomb, cynthiawhitcomb.com. I pulled that from her screenwriting class, which she got that from some mystic guru she met back in the 70s or 80s in Los Angeles. So the 3 phases of the creative cycle are Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And Brahma is the lightning strike of creativity. It's those moments where you feel like every project is falling into your lap. You're so lit up with creation. You can't work fast enough. You're just totally in it and want to do all the projects all the time. Vishnu is where we hang out most of the time, which is following the path, putting one foot in front of the other, still working on things, but not totally lit up and in bliss about the creative process. Shiva, if anybody knows about Shiva, the god of chaos, Shiva is the chaos and destructive nothingness. It is the can't get off the couch, can't do anything, don't want to work, don't want to create. I just feel like my creative juices have flown out of me and I don't have them. The problem is we live in a society that gives us generally 50 weeks of work and 2 weeks off a year. So in school, we're, hours and hours, 5 days a week for months and months as children, taught to sit in our desk and keep working and get the things done and do the homework and whatever. And we're not given the time to find our own creative flow or recognize our own creative cycle. And the truth is, we can force ourselves into Vishnu for a long, long time, but Brahma doesn't come back until Shiva happens. So Shiva, the important thing to remember is that it is a tunnel, not a cave. That if you are in the dark and you feel like you'll never create anything good again, just hold fast and wait for the light to return, because it will. It might take a week or a month or a year. It might take longer, but Brahma will return, and it is only a matter of time. If we don't give ourselves the time for Shiva, sometimes Shiva will show up and slap us in the face. So we can take pauses. There's a great book, I think it's called Rocket Fuel, that talks about how professional athletes and top performers have mastered the break, the pause. And that is Shiva. When we go on vacation or we, schedule that bubble bath, or we take time to not be forcing creation or to be in the production zone, then we're resetting and Brahma can come back sooner. If you've ever gone on vacation and suddenly gotten sick because you went on vacation and you were like, now we're going to go jet skiing, and now we're going to go for a hike, and now we're going to do all these things, and your body was like, no, you're on vacation. You have got to stop now. You have to pause. That is Shiva coming up to say hi. And hopefully, if you've ever come back from a vacation that was actually resting and restful and relaxing, you've noticed that suddenly all your projects look different and you've got this new awareness and this new light that you can see things with. It's important to be aware of the creative cycle so that we don't beat ourselves up so much. And it's also important, I think, once you recognize what Brahma is, to give it your time. So make the most of Brahma when it's there, because it doesn't always last forever. I feel like I'm in Brahma right now, where it's like, I just came back to visit my mom for a couple of weeks for her birthday. And she's like, do you want to watch something on TV later? And I'm like, no, but I'll be productive with you. Like, let's clean the house, or like, let me install your new DVD player. Like, whatever you want to do. I'm in like creation mode right now. I don't want to sit in front of a TV. I want to make use of this. And yeah, I wanted to say one other thing about Shiva, but I just forgot what that was. Basically, recognize the phases of the creative cycle. Give yourself permission to be in Shiva. If you're in Shiva, the less you beat yourself up, the faster it'll pass. And that there is a different cycle for everyone. Some people can go through all 3 of those phases in one day. Some people, it takes years. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay to be in Shiva, and it's okay to fall into chaos. Oh, that was the thing about Shiva. There is a distinction between procrastination and Shiva. Shiva is I can't do anything. Procrastination is I can do everything but the thing I'm supposed to be doing. So that is something to pay attention to as well.
Yes. Well, I was going to even say that sometimes I feel that even within like a microcycle within my day, that there's times where, even something like cleaning, where all of a sudden I start to pick something up and then I'm picking something else up and now I'm just moving and I can't, and then I'm like, I need to go with this energy, because most of the time I'm like, damn, I got to do this. But so I really try to do that in my day, even like if I feel if I start sending an email and it's just not flowing, then I'll just pause and go do something else because that energy isn't there for me. And then where is my energy? What am I excited to do? And ultimately, I think this is one of the biggest benefits of being an entrepreneur is that you have the opportunity to kind of flow with these cycles. Whereas, you work for somebody else and they have this kind of expectation of consistent output and efficiency and all of that. And there's less opportunity to be with those natural rhythms.
Yeah, totally.
But I can say with my partner and I, we've had times where we both recognize, and I find that in that Shiva cycle is that all of that shit, all that stuff comes up and we have like, who am I to do this? Who am I?
Yeah.
I can't do this. Why did we do this? And just a lot of doubt and fear. Do you have any advice or idea on how to be with that idea of, who am I to take this on?
Yeah, I think it's another blog article on my website called the tall poppy syndrome, because who am I to do this is a really common, what I call gremlin. So Shiva happens to be kind of a depressive state. So it's not surprising that when we're not being super productive and proving our worth and our value through our actions, that those little voices would get louder. But I call those voices gremlins. And the gremlins are the parts of you that are lies, and they're negative voices, and they're telling us that we're not good enough in some way, shape, or form. You don't know enough. Who are you to do this? No one should pay you money for that. You're a fraud, all those different things that come up. And the beauty of those, I know it sounds crazy that there's a beautiful side of those, but those are designed to keep you safe. Those are designed to keep you from embarrassment and harm and shame and guilt and grief and all the things that would hurt us as people who have emotions. Those things, those voices, those gremlins can be redirected. So either you give them a new job, like, hey, I hear you. What I'm hearing is you don't want me to get hurt or embarrassed, or you don't want me to show up in that way and fail. And I hear you. Thank you for being there, whatever part of me that is. And I'm going to be the one in the driver's seat making these choices. So it's like, you don't have to kick them out. You don't have to obliterate them. You just have to recognize that that's a part of you. That's a safety mechanism that's designed to keep you out of harm's way. And you have to put you, the highest self, the omnipotent being, the one connected to source energy, back in the driver's seat and remind that one that it's not in charge. And that is a really powerful process that can free you up to doing scary, uncomfortable, outside of your comfort zone things that might lead to growth and to greater than imaginable possibilities that we wouldn't be able to choose if the gremlins were the ones in the driver's seat. So be kind to yourself and learn how to have your own back in such a way that you get to stay in the driver's seat and those voices don't get to control you anymore. And therapy is a great option. Like tools, there's so many tools. Emotional freedom technique is a great option to deprogram that reactivity, that emotional response. Find some way to stop letting those voices talk you out of things, because they're there for a reason and they don't have to be driving the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, there is, I want to talk about one more thing before we wrap this up. You have I believe it's a blog post, but it's about a bobcat. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
I would like you to share that story, because I thought it was really
God. Okay.
The energy and the force from which you talk about that experience. So I just wanted you to share that.
Yeah, I love that you're pulling up blog posts of mine from the past, because I'm like, what's she going to say? Do I even remember what I wrote? But yeah, that's a powerful one. So I adopted a dog about a year and 3 or 4 months ago. And 2 or 3 months into having a dog, I'm in Tucson, in a residential area of Tucson, Arizona, in my friend's driveway in a neighborhood. And I'm working on my computer on a Zoom call. Fortunately, it wasn't a Zoom call I was facilitating, so I was on mute. And I hear my dog cry out, and I look outside and there's a giant cat on top of him. So I am within seconds, jump out of the van and grab this bobcat by the back of its neck, the nape of its neck, and toss it off of my dog. This was a 30 or 40-pound bobcat. At the moment, I thought it was a mountain lion. In hindsight, once I saw its face, I recognized it was a bobcat. A very scary day indeed. The dog was fine, a couple puncture wounds and scratches. I took him to the emergency vet immediately. We were both really shaken up and traumatized. But I was talking about it at dinner that night with my friends who were all in town for the Tucson Gem Show at my friend Carrie Side's house. And we started joking about it, of like the badassery of having grabbed this wild animal by the neck and thrown it off. And the term "not today bobcat" became sort of the motto of the experience. And then we were talking about different things in dinner, and it kept coming up of like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, not today bobcat, or like, no, that can't fuck with my energy. Not today bobcat. And it became this sort of energy, this theme of like, there are things, and I love that you brought this up right after the gremlins conversation, because it's totally the right energy antidote. But there are going to be things that show up to stop you in your tracks. There are going to be things that you did not expect that are going to shut you down or try to thwart you and mess with your journey and stop you from being who you're meant to be and stop you from doing all that you are here to do. And to that we say, not today, bobcat. There's an energy of unfuckwithability and an energy of just pure potency that when you are not willing to be thrown from your path, no matter what shows up to stop you, that has a ripple effect. It affects everyone in your life. It affects everyone who gets to receive your services. It affects the magnitude with which you can run your business and receive from your business. And anyone is welcome to take that on and be the energy of not today bobcat. But definitely if there's gremlins showing up, not today bobcat is a really great 3-word motto to use. And I use it all the time still.
When you're saying that, I just had like huge like shivers and going all the tingles all the way up and down my body. So that's very powerful.
Yeah.
Well, I want to give you the opportunity here to let my listeners know how they can find out more about you, tell them a little bit about your podcast, Tactical Magic, and anything else you'd like to leave my listeners with today.
Yes, thank you. So the best place to find everything is at wildheartsriseup.com. Hearts is plural. Wildheartsriseup.com. There's a really fun quiz on there that asks what level of thought leader you are and gives you a tarot archetype and a huge 16-page PDF all about your tarot archetype and how that relates to running your business as a thought leader. You can find me on Instagram if you want to follow my travels and get some of my daily juicy insights and wisdom and breakthroughs of my own. And on Instagram, I am wild_one. That's ONE_rising, wild one rising. And then my podcast is called Tactical Magic. And that is the business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. We talk about a lot of, not the same stuff we talked about today, but a lot of the similar energies. So how to rock your business, what to be paying attention to, and also a lot of interviews with other holistic practitioners and coaches and talking about consciousness and healing modalities and how to just level up energetically. And I just 2 weeks ago released a second podcast called Reveal the Game of Life, which is me and my friend Chris just geeking out about consciousness and magic. And that one has no business stuff really laced into it yet. It might at some point, but that's really just pure divine downloads coming out. So 2 podcasts to check out. I haven't linked Reveal the Game of Life on Wild Hearts Rise Up yet, but revealthegameoflife.com will take you to that podcast. And yeah, come into my world. I would love to get to know anyone who's listening.
Yes. Well, I loved our conversation today. I want to thank you again for coming on the Chaos and Light podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you all for listening.
Are you enjoying this podcast and want to help this lady out? Well, share it with friends, or even better, leave a review on iTunes. We'd love to hear from you. Now back to the show. Well, that is our episode for today. Thank you so much for listening, and to all those wonderful people leaving reviews. I'd love to hear more from you if you have any show suggestions, or if you're out there saying, I have something fantastic I would like to discuss in the realm of spirituality, consciousness, energetics. You can email me at Angela at chaosandlight.com. I'd love to see you at the Living Light Meditation Gallery, either on the 21st or 28th of February. We have them 3 times a month. And next week is going to be a solo episode where I can dive deeper into the divine spectacle and get back to my roots a little. And then I'll be following that up again with more interviews. So that's it for the show. Take care and seek the mystery.